Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Jake Makes. Today we are going to be building some arrows. Since last week I made a PVC compound bow, and a bow is nothing without arrows. Duh. Today we're going to be making some arrows super cheaply using stuff you can buy at the hardware store. I'm going to show you how to make broadhead arrows, and I'm going to show you how to make some arrows that you can put some target points on that you can also buy really cheaply from the store, as well as making a PVC quiver super easily, and another quiver idea I had. Yeah, all that good stuff. Thanks for coming along. Let's jump right in. First of all, you are going to need a bunch of 3/8 inch dowels. I bought 12 because I want to make a ton of arrows. You're also going to need duct tape for the fletching. For the broadheads, you're going to need to go to the dollar store and buy some super cheap spoons. Then I went to Walmart and bought some of these cheap field heads. This was like $3 for 8 field tips. Super cheap. Then you're going to need to go and buy some brass or steel, not aluminum, 3/8 inch tubing. And then some 5-minute epoxy. First thing we need to do is figure out how long we need these dowels and cut them off. Obviously you first want to examine them, make sure the dowels are nice and straight, figure out if any part of them is broken or any cracks you need to avoid. Then what we're gonna do is stretch out like we're holding a bow. You can even grab the bow if you want to. We're gonna hold it just like we would an arrow and get to about a full draw. Make a mark with your thumb, make your mark, that's the length of your arrow. Then we can cut that. And cut the rest of them. Obviously, the best dowels to use are hardwood dowels like oak or whatever other hardwoods they have. But since I'm cheap, I'm just using the regular pine dowels. Not as strong, gonna break a lot easier. That's up to you. We're gonna start off with the target point arrow. Target point. Focus. There we go. Starting by drilling the hole the size of the back end of this into this dowel so we can stick it in there. Now we'll take our brass tubing and measure down about, how much? Measure down 1 1/4, mark there, and mark on the brass. And yeah, you can cut that with a hacksaw, but I didn't feel like it, so, you know. Then after cutting this out, what you have to do is sand or file down the diameter so that the brass sleeve will fit snugly over it. And then you want to push that on over it all the way, like that. Now what you want to do is take that epoxy or some other kind of glue and stick it down in the hole. Then shove the arrowhead in it. Okie dokie, now let's show on. There you all might be. Okie dokie, now let's move on to the broadheads. Start by taking one of these spoons and hammering the head of it flat. Is that what the spoon part of the spoon is called? Head? I don't know. Regardless of what it's called, make it flat. Like that. Then measure 3/4 of an inch up from the end of the head. Proceed to cut there with the cutting implement of your choice. I don't want to take the time to use a hacksaw, so I'm using an angle grinder. But if you don't have an angle grinder, use a hacksaw, as I've already mentioned. And cut it out, once again, with whatever cutting tool you want. You can do the whole thing with a file, but since I'm feeling lazy, I'm gonna go ahead and grind the rest of it and put an edge on it. Butamas. Now take your dowel, stick it in the vise, and measure down 2 inches from the top and make a mark. Then take your handy dandy saw and cut down that line. Actually, I did not need to cut all the way down that. Whoops. Don't cut 2 inches. Make a mark 2 inches and cut 1 1/4. Make a mark 2 inches, cut 1 1/4. This brass casing is 1.5 inches long instead of 1 1/4 inches, and it needs to slide all the way down to that mark. So go ahead and carve down the outside till this will slide over. Boom, bada bam! Then jam this thing down from the top. Get a load of these. I don't really like the regular back quivers that you have to reach awkwardly behind your back to pull out an arrow, and you kind of have to like grab it and pull it straight up for like 3 feet before you can then pull it down and put on your bow. I think it's a pretty stupid design. So you're left with a couple other options, which are one, to do a hip side quiver where you draw from a quiver hanging from your waist, which I think is pretty cool. And then the second one is the one we're gonna be doing, which is where you actually have a back quiver, but instead of pulling out of the top, you actually lift up and pull down out of the bottom, which I know doesn't make any sense. So we're gonna go ahead and make it, and then you'll see what I mean. First, let's cut and mark and cut this PVC right there. Go ahead and stick that cap on there. Okay. Looks about a good line. Now we want to make a mark around 3.5 inches above the bottom thingamajiggy. And we'll make another mark 10 inches above that one. Basically, we're gonna be cutting out one of the sides of this thing. Now that you've got this beautiful hole cut out and sanded and polished and everything, then you're gonna take your drill and drill a paracord sized hole about right there. Yep, that's a paracord sized hole. Cool! Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Get our paracord, tie a knot in one end, feed it through. Okie dokie, here's the quiver. Stick it on your back like that. To draw, you reach back, pull up, pull down, arrow in your hand. Now we're on to nocking the arrows, which is carving in that notch thing that the bowstring sits in. Drill a small hole straight through. Then you cut at an angle from the top corner down to meet that hole. Do the same on the other side. There's your knocker. I also like to shave down my nocks a bit right there and right there, so my fingers fit better right there. Can we see good? Yeah. Fletching! Let's get started. Now your fancy folks are gonna tell you need to use feathers, but feathers are so hard to do, and they actually don't work any better than duct tape in my very extensive scientific laboratory testing. You want to leave about 1.5 inches from the back for you to get your fingers in there. So we'll start right here. ahead and stick the duct tape down on one side, then fold it over, stick it down on the other side, and then slowly work your fingers up, making sure it's straight until, there we go. Bend it over on one side, bend over, push it down. Oh yeah, and rotate it 30 degrees. Now we can go ahead and shape the fletching. Whatever shape you like the best. Cut off that very tip top folded over bit because it makes the duct tape kind of let go of itself. Overlapping the very bottom and wrap it all the way around. We now have spinny fletching that will spin the arrow as it flies through the air. And that's how you do the fletching. Now, sit tight while I do about 8 more. So I was at Home Depot picking up all the parts for this stuff, and I had this great idea for a quiver. They sell these like tool pouches here that have a bunch of different pockets and stuff for things, and they have these belt clips on the back. I think it's like $5 or $6, something like that. Anyway, and I just saw this and I was like, oh man, that's brilliant. That looks just like a quiver design that I'd seen online before. I put a little bolt in here. You could use a rivet or something too to make this pouch smaller so it fit the arrows better. Holds all the arrows like this. And you can take it and clip it onto your belt. Just like this. Boom, instant compact back quiver. I thought that was a pretty cool idea. Well, time for some epicness. Oh, look at that. I think it just cut through right through the side. Look at that. Awesome. Oh yeah.
Oh my word.